Incredible moment revealed. Single dad's 5-month struggle leads to heartwarming act by Black Maid. Tom stood at the living room door, watching as Lily flitted around the house like a little whirlwind. Her laughter echoed off the walls, a sweet melody that temporarily drowned out the chaos of unpaid bills and looming deadlines. But the moment he blinked, the weight crashed back down on him. His heart ached as he felt trapped in a relentless cycle, 2 jobs that consumed his life, and not enough money to keep the power on for another month. The thought of his estranged parents offered no comfort. Their absence felt like a ghost haunting the corners of his mind, amplifying his isolation. Every day was a battle in the suburbs of Chicago, where BBQs and cheerful neighbors only served to emphasize how alone he truly felt. He tried hard to teach Lily values of kindness and hard work amid his struggles, but some days, their laughter was overshadowed by the stress that clawed at him. Days turned into weeks, and weeks blurred into months. He could feel the exhaustion creeping up his back like an unwelcome guest. He was drowning, and he didn't know how to swim back to the surface. Then came Aisha, the local maid. Tom hesitated before opening the door to her, torn between the artificial comfort of holding on to his pride and the pressing need for help. Her presence felt foreign, a discomforting reminder of societal divisions he'd silently lived with. But as she stepped inside, her warm smile seemed to counter the chill of his biases. Lily adored Aisha from the very first moment. It was infectious, a bond forming not just out of necessity but from a deeply rooted understanding. Aisha brought life into their home, sharing stories, laughter, and fleeting moments that began to dissolve Tom's preconceived notions. It was as if the sun had broken through the clouds after a long, dreary storm. Could he really be wrong in his doubts? The connection was taking him by surprise, but life had its own plans. A sudden health scare knocked Tom off his feet, splintering the delicate balance of their fragile world. He struggled to breathe as panic clawed at him, a mix of urgent phone calls to doctors blurring into one another. Amidst the storm of confusion and fear, Lily stood wide-eyed, clinging to his side, and that nurturing spirit of Aisha suddenly became a beacon of hope. As Aisha took charge, the doorbell ringing incessantly turned into a chorus of community love. Neighbors rallied together, bringing meals and kindness that rang like music in the air. The realization hit Tom like a tidal wave: they cared, they wanted to help. Each unfamiliar face revealed the truth he'd been blind to through his solitude, breaking down the walls he'd meticulously built over the years. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the community circled their lawn, laughing and sharing stories, Tom's stomach twisted in a whirlwind of emotions. What did it mean to accept help? Acceptance brought with it the fear of vulnerability. Just as laughter began to revive their home, a subtle moment threatened to unravel everything. A flurry of misplaced words during a conversation sparked tension between Tom and Aisha, leaving them at a crossroads. Would he let go of the biases that had haunted him for so long? Or would he lose the connection that was now beginning to define his understanding of family and forgiveness? The sun dipped low, casting a warm orange hue across the lawn as laughter danced like fireflies in the fading light. But for Tom, that joy was like a specter, lurking just out of reach. He could feel the tension from that conversation with Aisha hanging in the air like a thick fog, and his heart raced with uncertainty. Tom, are you okay? Aisha's voice drifted toward him, sweet yet firm, breaking through the muddled thoughts swirling in his head. He turned, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. He didn't want to ruin what had felt like a turning point for them, yet the fear of losing her friendship gnawed at him. I didn't mean to say what I did, he stammered, his throat tight. It was stupid. Maybe, but it was also honest, she replied. Her straightforward nature calmed the storm in his chest, even as her gaze held a flicker of hurt. We need honesty, especially when we're trying to build something together. Those words struck a chord deep within him. It was hard to admit that she was right. The thought of constructing new bridges while standing on the rubble of his past was terrifying. Just as he was about to respond, Lily bounded up, her tiny hands tugging at his shirt. "Daddy! Can we play tag?" Her bright eyes sparkled with excitement. He glanced at Aisha, seeking reassurance. Could they return to the lightness of that laughter just a moment before? She nodded, her expression softening, and he felt a flicker of hope. "All right, let us do it," he said, and with that, the air of tension began to dissipate. As they played, the sound of giggles and squeals filled the evening. Tom chased Lily, his heart lifting with each of her delighted shrieks. He caught her and swept her up in his arms, then spun her around, losing himself in the pure joy of the moment. Aisha joined them, chasing after Lily, laughter echoing against the backdrop of clapping neighbors. Maybe they could be a family, despite the odds stacked against them, but as the sun continued setting, the laughter faded, and Tom felt it again, the gentle push of anxiety at the edges of his mind. That flurry of words, still fresh and heavy. He cast a glance at Aisha, who had settled onto the porch steps. She looked beautiful, the warmth of the sunset framing her face. He wondered if he had really begun to understand her or if his fears would once again drown out the bright light she had brought into their lives. Later that night, after Lily was tucked into bed, Tom found himself alone in the kitchen, staring at the stack of bills on the counter. Each envelope seemed to echo the truth he had been avoiding: his struggles were far from over. He leaned against the counter, feeling the weight of the world pressing down. But as he closed his eyes, it wasn't despair that filled him. It was the face of Aisha, her laughter, her kindness, and the unexpected warmth of community that stirred something inside. With each passing day, he felt shifts within himself, a tugging towards growth, towards healing. He needed to confront not only his fears but also the truth that Aisha had laid bare before him. "What are you afraid of, Tom?" he whispered to himself, feeling the vulnerability creep in, leaving his heart exposed. Just then, the phone buzzed on the counter. It was a message from Aisha. "Hope you're okay. Let us talk tomorrow." Tom's heart raced, not just from anxiety, but from the thrill of possibility. Tomorrow could be a step toward healing. Or perhaps, it was the moment when he had to confront everything he had been avoiding. And as the clock ticked away, Tom couldn't help but wonder, would he have the courage to reveal his true self? The next morning was tinged with a hopeful brightness. Sunlight streamed through the window, glistening like freshly polished glass. Tom sat at the kitchen table, a steaming cup of coffee in front of him, but he barely noticed it. His mind raced with possibilities, and his heart danced nervously. The message from Aisha hung over him, filling the air with tension. It was like a tightrope he had to walk, a delicate balance between fear and hope. Could this be the day he started unraveling the knots inside him? Minutes ticked by as he turned the coffee mug between his fingers. He needed to be honest, but the fear of being vulnerable gnawed at him. What would Aisha think? Would she see him as weak? He took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm brewing inside. Just as he was about to pick up his phone, the doorbell rang. It startled him, and he almost spilled his coffee. For a moment, he stood still, his heart hammering in his chest. He slowly walked to the door, fearing it might be Lily waking up or even a neighbor with more bills to deliver. When he opened it, he found Aisha standing there, radiating warmth and friendliness. She wore a bright yellow sundress, the color exuding a brightness that contrasted sharply with his inner turmoil. "Hey. I figured I'd come over instead of texting," she said, a nervous smile playing on her lips. Yeah. "Come in," he said, stepping aside. His heart pounded, but he wanted this. Aisha crossed the threshold, and it felt significant. Like he was inviting her into more than just his home. They settled in the kitchen, the air filled with the enticing aroma of brewing coffee. "Want some?" he asked, attempting to keep it casual. "Sure, But let us hold off on caffeine until after we talk, she replied, her tone light but serious. Tom noticed the way her eyes sparkled with determination. Right, he said, swallowing hard. Aisha pulled out a chair and sat down at the table, her expression shifting from playful to concerned. Tom, I want to talk about what happened the other day. He could feel the heaviness of the conversation approaching, much like a storm cloud. Yeah, I know I overstepped, he started, but Aisha shook her head. No, you didn't, T. What you said was important, maybe more important than you realize. I want to understand where you're coming from. Her openness encouraged him. He took a deep breath, searching for words. He had spent so much time keeping everything bottled up. It's hard for me to let people in. I've been hurt before, and I've let fear guide a lot of my decisions. Aisha's expression softened, and for a moment, the tension eased. You're not alone in this. We all have scars, Tom. It's okay to feel vulnerable. Her empathy struck him like a lightning bolt, illuminating parts of himself he had hidden away for far too long. You make me feel safe and scared at the same time, he admitted, his voice trembling. I don't want to ruin what we have. You won, T, she reassured him, leaning in. I believe in us. But you have to trust me, too. Share your fears with me. As Tom met her gaze, a swell of raw emotion surged inside him. He felt on the brink of something monumental, a pivotal moment that could redefine not just their relationship but also his future. But just as he was about to dive deeper, a loud crash echoed from upstairs. Tom's heart raced. What was that? Lily? He jumped to his feet and rushed toward the stairs, Aisha following closely behind. In that moment, all thoughts of vulnerability and honesty were overshadowed by the urgent need to ensure Lily was all right. As they reached the top of the stairs, Tom couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. Whatever awaited them at the end of that hallway might change things forever. And as he opened the door to Lily's room, he could only wonder, would he find the courage to face not just her, but the truth he had been avoiding? The door creaked open, revealing a chaotic scene. Toys were strewn across the floor, and the curtains fluttered as if caught in a gust. In the corner, Lily stood wide-eyed, clutching her favorite teddy bear. She looked more startled than hurt. Relief washed over Tom like a tidal wave, but it was quickly followed by a rush of anxiety. What happened? He gasped, scanning the room for any signs of danger. I knocked over my tower. Lily pointed to a pile of colorful blocks that had toppled over. Her voice was a mixture of pride and distress. Tom knelt beside her, his heart finally starting to calm. It's okay, sweetheart. I thought you were hurt. Aisha crouched down next to them, her presence grounding. You built quite a tower, Lily. What if we help you rebuild it? Lily's face lit up with a smile, and just like that, the atmosphere shifted. The looming storm of Tom's nerves faded into the background. They spent the next few moments picking up the blocks together, laughter punctuating the air as they stacked them higher. Tom couldn't remember the last time he felt this light-hearted. Each block lifted seemed to take away some weight he had been carrying. Aisha shot him a reassuring glance, and something in that brief exchange sparked hope. Once the tower stood tall once more, Lily clapped her hands. Look! It's even bigger this time. Aisha beamed, and Tom felt warmth radiate from her. It was a small but powerful reminder that maybe, just maybe, he didn't have to face everything alone. Now you try not to knock it down this time, okay? Tom teased, and Lily giggled. Okay. I promise. She said, her confidence shining. As Tom watched her delight, the urge to protect and open up collided within him, but, suddenly, a hint of shadow crossed his mind. Soon, they would have to talk about the important things. About him. About the heart he was still piecing together. Decisions loomed ahead. Just when he thought he could coax out the strength to share his truth, the familiar dread crept back in. "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" Aisha's voice sliced through his distraction. She motioned for him to step outside Lily's room. Tom nodded, his heart quickening again. As they retreated into the hallway, Tom felt the air thickening with tension. "What's up?" Aisha turned to face him, her expression serious yet soft. "You know, I really want to support you. But you have to let me in. I can't help if you don't open up." He swallowed hard. "I know. It's not easy. I get that. But maybe it's time to let someone in." "You don't have to do this alone," Aisha encouraged him, her eyes unwavering. Tom's heart raced faster, an undeniable urge to share his burden flickering within. With Aisha by his side, vulnerability felt like it might just be worth the risk. Just as he opened his mouth to speak the words he'd held back for so long, a loud shriek echoed from Lily's room. They both jolted, and Tom's heart dropped. "What now?" They hurried back inside, fear slicing through the moment. As they pushed open the door, Tom's mind raced with possibilities. What could possibly wait for them in that room now? And in that mere moment, he realized, talking would have to wait. The truth he feared had never felt so pressing. Would he find the strength to confront it, or would life throw yet another curveball his way? Inside the room, the sight that greeted them was nothing short of chaotic. Lily stood there, now on her feet, her mouth open in a mix of shock and excitement. "Look! My unicorn!" she exclaimed, pointing at the glittering figurine that had teetered precariously on the edge of her bookshelf, and now lay shattered on the floor. Tom's heart sank. The pieces of the once beautiful unicorn sparkled like cruel reminders of joy turned to despair. Lily's face transformed from pride to heartbreak in an instant. "It was my favorite." Tears welled up in her eyes, and each one felt like a punch to Tom's gut. Without thinking, he rushed to her side and knelt down. "Oh no, Lily. I'm so sorry." He scooped up the fragments carefully, as if handling a fragile dream. The pieces were sharp, both literally and emotionally. How could this happen? Her shining smile, now replaced by a frown, tore at the fabric of his heart. Aisha stepped closer, moving beside them. "It's okay, sweetie. We can fix this, somehow," she said, her voice soothing, trying to bring some comfort amidst the shattered remnants. But Tom knew that sometimes, you couldn't fix things, no matter how hard you tried. Lily sniffled, wiping the tears with the back of her hand. "It won't ever be the same," she said, her voice trembling. Tom squeezed her hand gently. "Things break sometimes, but that doesn't mean we can't find new ways to make things special again," he said, his own heart heavy with the weight of unspoken truths. He wanted to tell her that life had its challenges, that broken things could sometimes lead to new beautiful memories, but it felt harder than ever to articulate his thoughts when he knew she was experiencing loss. "And maybe," Aisha added, her eyes sparkling with an idea, "we could make it into something new? You could decorate a new one, something even more amazing." Lily looked up, her big eyes searching Aisha's face for hope. The slight shimmer of excitement returned. "Really? I could make it even bigger?" "Absolutely." Aisha nodded, determination illuminating her features. As they moved to clean up the shards, a moment passed between Tom and Aisha. It was a fleeting glance, but within it lay a world of understanding. He felt a surge of gratitude, the kind that twisted inside him, pulling at the threads of vulnerability that had been tight for so long. But just as the heaviness began to lift, Lily's laughter erupted, shattering the silence that had settled. "Look! I can make a new tower even bigger with these pieces." She stacked one piece on another, her confidence blossoming once more in the face of loss. Tom chuckled, his heart warming. "That's the spirit. Build away, kiddo." As they helped Lily create a new structure, piece by piece, Tom couldn't shake the thoughts coiling within him. Did he have the strength to explore the deeper truths that had once brought him to his knees? Aisha's eyes remained fixed on him, as if she could sense that the moment of reckoning was drawing closer. "You know, Tom, I'll be right here, no matter how messy it gets if you want to talk." The weight of her promise hung in the air, both a comfort and a push. The challenge ahead felt daunting, yet almost exhilarating. How could he relay his fears and hopes after all this time in silence? But in that moment, as he watched his daughter create joy from broken pieces, he realized that maybe he could begin to share his own broken pieces too. The storm inside him grew fierce, wanting to break free, but would he dare? Before he could form a response, a loud crash from behind them echoed another toy perhaps, or something heavier. The moment of truth felt even more imminent. Should he tackle his fears now, or see what else was waiting to be revealed? Tom's heart raced as he turned, his breath caught in his throat. What could have caused that noise? He fought the impulse to panic, focusing instead on the expressions of the two women in his life. Lily's eyes were wide with a mix of curiosity and concern, while Aisha's brow furrowed slightly, projecting her own concern back at him. "Should we check it out?" Aisha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Tom nodded, fighting back the swell of anxiety that threatened to overtake him. "Let us see what it is." He rose to his feet, unresolved thoughts swirling inside him like a tempest. He steadied himself and moved toward the source of the sound. Outside the room, toys lay scattered just outside Lily's door, remnants of a chaotic playtime. But it was not toys that caught his attention. There, on the floor, lay another framed picture that had slipped from the wall, its glass shattered like Lily's unicorn. "You okay, buddy?" Tom's heart sank again, recognizing the image that had just fallen. It was a family portrait, taken before things had shifted in their lives. His hand trembled as he picked it up, careful with the glass edges, his mind flooded with memories, the smiles they all shared, the laughter that once filled their home. Lily stepped quietly beside him, peering at the picture. "Daddy, that was when we were all together. Can we fix it too?" Aisha knelt beside Lily, wrapping an arm around her little shoulders. "We can't fix everything," she said softly. "But we can keep our memories alive. Just like your unicorn. And you, Lily, you're getting really good at making new things." Tom felt a wave of gratitude wash over him again. Aisha was right. He had a choice to make in that moment, either to cling to the past with desperation or to embrace the new pathways building from the remnants of what was once whole. "It's just stuff, right?" he finally said, a half-hearted attempt to convince himself. "So long as we're together, we can make new memories." Lily nodded enthusiastically, her spirit resilient in the face of heartache. "Yeah. Like my tower." With a deep breath, Tom turned back to the scattered glass. "Let us clean this up first, all right? Then we can plan how to make new things." He felt the truth of his words reverberate inside him, matching the flicker of strength that lit Lily's face. They worked together to gather the pieces, a small community built on broken dreams. As they carefully swept, Tom started to feel the edges of fear dulled by a growing acceptance. Maybe sharing his wounds didn't necessarily mean losing control. While they cleaned, Aisha slipped into light conversation, her voice wrapping around him like a warm embrace. "You know, Tom, I remember when my family lost something important too. It's rough, but you can always find a way to celebrate what was instead of mourning what's gone." Tom glanced at her, surprised by the vulnerability in her confession. It triggered a breakthrough inside. "I guess I've been so focused on," he began, but cut himself off, feeling a swell of emotion rise up. "On what you lost," Aisha finished gently, her gaze steady and understanding. "But it's okay to want to talk about it when you're ready." Tom felt exposed, like the broken pieces of the unicorn, yet strangely liberated by her words. It was like the tension inside him was starting to crack, revealing glimpses of warmth beneath, like the feeling of sunshine breaking through clouds on a dreary day. Just as Lily re-engaged with her tower building, laughter bubbling again from the heart of their tumultuous dynamic, another loud noise echoed from downstairs. This time, it sounded more like a door slamming shut. What now? Tom exclaimed, already moving toward the stairs. Is it my imagination, or is our house auditioning for a horror movie? Aisha followed closely, her determined steps echoing his own. Whatever's down there, we'll face it together. We always will. Tom cast a glance back at Lily, who was now stacking the pieces of her new creation with fervor. His heart fluttered with hope, mixed with the undeniable fear looming like a dark cloud. He had begun to sense a transformation in himself, but could he truly confront whatever awaited them? As they reached the bottom of the stairs, a dark shadow flickered across the hallway. At that moment, Tom knew they were stepping into a deeper layer of their chaotic life, a moment that could redefine everything. What awaited them became a turning point in their journey. Would this be the final revelation that helped him uncover the truths he'd been shying away from? As Tom and Aisha descended the stairs, the atmosphere in the house twisted, thickening with an uncertain weight. The shadows around them deepened, and Tom's heart hammered in his chest. Each creaky step seemed to echo his mounting anxiety, filling the air with a tension he couldn't quite shake off. Did you see that? Aisha breathed, her eyes wide with concern as she pointed toward the flicker in the hallway. Tom swallowed hard, his throat dry. Yeah, it looked like something moved, he admitted. But what could it be? A moment stretched between them, heavy with anticipation. Just then, a soft sound drifted in from beyond the hallway, a muffled sob, filled with despair. The sound tugged at Tom's heart, mingling confusion with a desperate need to protect his family. Is Lily okay? Aisha asked, her voice rising slightly. She's upstairs, he replied, looking back at the staircase as if Lily could somehow hear them. It's coming from downstairs. Tom, what if it's someone in trouble? He nodded, feeling the anxious knot twist tighter in his stomach. We have to check. With a determined nod, they crept forward. Tom's instincts screamed to turn back, but he sensed Aisha beside him. Her belief in their shared strength infused him with courage he didn't know he had. As they reached the living room, Tom took a deep breath, stepping into the dim light filtering through the windows. Then, he froze. There, curled up in the corner, was a figure, a woman, her head buried in her arms, shaking with silent cries. Excuse me. Tom called softly, his voice quaking. Are you all right? The woman looked up, startled. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears, revealing a depth of pain that struck Tom's heart like a brick. Her face was familiar, a fleeting memory from the past. Aisha, he whispered, realization dawning on him. That Aisha stepped forward, her expression shifting from concern to instant recognition. It's Sarah, from the community center. The woman nodded, her voice choked. I didn't know where else to go, I don't know what to do. Her vulnerability poured out like the shards of glass scattered on the floor earlier, raw and painful. The chaos around them faded, and Tom felt a fierce protectiveness wash over him. You're safe here. Take your time. We're here for you. Sarah raised her gaze, and in that moment, a powerful bond was formed. He watched as her breathing steadied, the weight of despair beginning to lift. The understanding that they were all drowning in their individual storms created an unspoken connection, one where vulnerability met empathy. Aisha knelt beside her. You don't have to face this alone. We can help. Tom could hardly believe the surreal situation. The woman they barely knew was suddenly right here, in their home, vulnerable and raw, much like his own heart had felt for so long. Just like they were all piecing together broken memories, she too was searching for healing. As they sat together, Tom felt a shift within himself. Maybe this was not just about his struggles, but about building bridges, embracing the messy, tangled knots of their lives. Together, they could rise from the shadows. Remember, Lily's upstairs, he said, trying to lighten the moment. I think she could use a new friend too. A broken smile crossed Sarah's face, warmed by the invitation. I'd do like that. But just as a glimmer of hope began to replace the gathering storm, a loud crash came from the kitchen, followed by a shatter that sent all three jumping up. "What was that?" Aisha exclaimed, her fearful eyes connecting with Tom's. Tom's heart dropped again. Whatever awaited them seemed determined to challenge the healing that was just starting to unfold. "Let us find out," he said, fear clashing with determination. Together, with breaths held and hearts racing, they moved toward the sound. What lay beyond that door might change everything yet again. Could they truly face the trials ahead, or would the darkness swallow them whole? As Tom, Aisha, and Sarah approached the kitchen, the air thickened with a sense of foreboding. The sound had been loud, unnerving, and the shatter of glass hinted at something more than an accident. Tom exchanged troubled glances with Aisha. They needed to stay united. Tom reached for the doorknob, half expecting it to tremble beneath his touch. "On 3, he whispered, counting down in his head. 1, 2, 3. He pushed the door open, his heart thundering in his chest. The kitchen lay in a mess of broken dishes and spilled flour, clumped and ghostly white across the floor. The refrigerator door hung ajar, swinging slowly, like a heart that had just been torn open. But amidst the chaos, a shadow darted across the room, a flash of movement that caught Tom's eye. "Hello?" he called, his voice thick with uncertainty. A crash resounded as tiny legs clattered across the counter, sending utensils flying. And in the midst of the mayhem, a small dog emerged, its shiny black fur gleaming against the backdrop of shattered porcelain. "Dash!" Aisha exclaimed and burst into a laugh that reverberated with relief. It was their friend's dog, lost during their last visit to the community center. The little guy looked as guilty as a child caught with their hand in the cookie jar, unsure if he was in trouble. "Dash, look what you did." Aisha knelt down, her earlier fear melting into a wave of affection. The poor pup was shivering, his dark eyes wide and pleading. Tom felt a smile curl at the corners of his mouth, the tension in his shoulders easing. "Looks like you got hungry, buddy," he said, ruffling Dash's fur. But then his expression shifted. The sight of the broken glass reminded him of how fragile things could be. "We need to be careful, though." Sarah, who stood awkwardly still at the door, seemed to absorb the shift in energy. The chaotic scene transformed into something almost wholesome, a kind of unity blossoming in a place once shadowed by anguish. "It's okay, Dash," she finally said softly, stepping closer to join their tiny family moment. "We're all a little broken sometimes, right?" Tom exchanged a glance with Aisha. Sarah's words resonated, echoing the sentiments they had just shared. It was true, they were all carrying wounds, but perhaps together, they could begin to piece the shards back together. "You know," Tom said, voice lighter now, "I think this kitchen needs a little cleanup and a lot of love." He grinned, inspired by a sudden idea. "How about a cooking project? Everyone in on it?" Aisha's eyes brightened. "Yes. Cooking therapy. That'll surely get Sarah feeling better." Sarah hesitated, glancing back at the mess. But as Dash wagged his tail, slinking closer to her, inviting warmth spread in her chest. "Maybe I could help?" "Absolutely." Aisha encouraged. "We can start soft. How do brownies sound?" The prospect of sweet, gooey desserts seemed to flicker hope within Sarah. A smile emerged, tentative yet hopeful. "Brownies sound perfect." Tom stepped further into the kitchen, determination bubbling in him. "All right then, let us clean this up. We have a feast to prepare." As they picked up the shattered glass and wiped down the counters, laughter soon filled the room, and for the first time in what felt like ages, joy began to break through the shadows. Dash bounded between them, collecting scraps and crumbs, oblivious to the emotional storms that had brought them all here, but as their laughter echoed down the hallway, the air shifted once more, a strange chill creeping in. A sudden knock sounded from the front door, loud and demanding, slicing through their moment of connection. Tom exchanged worried glances with Aisha and Sarah. Who could that be? The back of his neck prickled with apprehension. Just when they had begun to find healing, they were once again thrust into uncertainty. What if it's someone from the past? Aisha whispered, scanning their surroundings. What if it's trouble? Sarah added, her brow furrowing. Tom's stomach nodded. Whatever awaited them at the door, he knew it could change everything once more. He took a shaky breath. How much more could they endure before the waves swallowed them whole? With a surge of resolve, he stepped towards the front door, ready to confront whatever came next. Tom gripped the doorknob, feeling its cool metal against his clammy palm. His heart raced, each thud echoing in the silence that had replaced their laughter. He glanced back at Aisha and Sarah, both still and wide-eyed, caught in a moment of collective tension. Stay close, he instructed, pulling the door open slowly, the wood creaking like a reluctant guardian. The dim light outside revealed a figure tall and imposing, shrouded in shadow. Tom's breath caught in his throat. Was this someone from their past? Or worse, someone they had hoped to never see again? Can I help you? Tom asked, his voice steadier than he felt. The figure stepped forward and into the light. It was a man wearing a heavy coat, his face partially hidden beneath a worn cap. I'm looking for Aisha, he said, his voice gruff but wavering slightly. Aisha's breath hitched, and she instinctively stepped back, drawing nearer to Tom. What do you want? She asked, her voice trembling with a mix of curiosity and fear. I just need to talk, that's all. Tom felt the weight of Aisha's tension beside him. His protective instinct kicked in. Talk about what? He challenged, crossing his arms. This stranger had brought enough chaos into their lives already. The man shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know I've made mistakes. But it's important. What's important? Aisha's voice was harder now, eyes aflame. Why should we listen to anything you have to say? Just then, Dash broke free from Tom's legs, trotting towards the man with a bark that seemed to echo the hesitation in the room. The man looked down, his face softening, even as his hands clenched tight. I know, buddy. It's just me, he murmured, almost to himself. Do you know him? Sarah asked quietly, breaking the tense silence. She stood just behind Tom, peering with wide eyes as if searching for answers in this stranger's demeanor. Yes, Aisha said, her voice suddenly hushed, barely above a whisper. He's my brother. A stunned pause hung thick in the air as Aisha's words sank in. Tom felt the ground shift beneath him. Brother? This was a revelation he hadn't seen coming. An entire world of other luggage clung to Aisha, one he hadn't known existed. Why are you here, Jay? Aisha asked, her tone both brave and fragile. I came to say I'm sorry. To explain, Tom glanced at Aisha, catching the flicker of emotions across her face: fear, anger, and a whisper of hope. Could this be the moment they had been waiting for? Could it tear down the walls that kept her from moving forward? But doubt crept in. Is this a good idea? Tom murmured, trying to gauge her reaction. Before Aisha could respond, a crack of thunder rumbled outside, shaking the walls of the house, as if even nature was uncertain about this encounter. They're going to hate you, Aisha, Jay said, taking a half step forward as if the thunder had propelled him. But I couldn't live with myself anymore, not after everything that happened. She stood frozen, caught between past betrayals and unfinished reconciliation. Tom held her gaze, feeling the storm brewing within her. You don't have to do this, he urged softly, not breaking eye contact. But Aisha's expression hardened. No, I need to know, she replied, taking a steely breath. I have to know why you left. As the storm raged outside, the air inside the house charged with possibility. Tom's heart sank as an uneasy feeling crept in. Would they emerge stronger, or would this night crack them open in a way they weren't prepared for? He squeezed Aisha's hand, promising silently to stand by her side. "Let us hear him out," Tom said quietly, reluctantly opening the door wider. "Let us see what he has to say." But as Jay stepped further into the house, the old wounds began to fester anew, and Tom wondered, was this truly the moment of healing or just another spiral into despair? And could they really confront the past together without shattering the fragile hope they had just begun to build? The unsettling silence that followed felt heavy. Only one thing was certain: whatever was about to unfold could change their lives forever. Tom watched Jay step into the cramped space of their home, the past and present colliding with every inch he gained. The air felt thick, heavy with tension, as if the very walls were closing in on them. He turned to Aisha, who stood rooted next to him, her expression a complex tapestry of emotions: confusion, pain, maybe even a flicker of hope. "Let us just hear him out," Tom whispered again, trying to reassure her. He felt the warmth of her hand gripping his tightly, a silent indication of her readiness to face whatever was about to unfold. "Why now?" Aisha asked, her voice quiet yet fierce. "Why didn't you come back sooner?" "I was scared," Jay admitted, his eyes cast downward. "I didn't know how to face you, to face everything I left behind. I thought it was for the best." "Best for who?" Aisha shot back, anger flaring. Tom felt the heat radiating from her, and he had a sinking feeling that what had begun as a fragile peace was now teetering on the brink of chaos. At that moment, Dash began to whine and tug playfully at Tom's pant leg, as though sensing the bubbling tension in the air. Tom's anxious fingers stroked the dog's fur thoughtfully. It was such a simple comfort, yet it reminded him that they had built a small world here, one he desperately wanted to protect. "I came back because I can't pretend anymore," Jay continued, his voice trembling. "I know I failed you, Aisha. I should have been there when you needed me the most, but I was too selfish." Silence enveloped them, weighed down by the unspoken heartache that had lingered for so long. Aisha's face paled, her resolve cracked slightly under the weight of emotions poised to spill over. For a second, Tom could almost hear the echoes of unfinished conversations they had always avoided. He understood that heartache, he'd endured it since the day he lost touch with his parents. But, did they really have the strength to confront these broken pieces together? "I just wanted to say I'm sorry," Jay said quietly, yet the uncertainty hung in the air. "And I want to help you. I'll help rebuild what I broke." "Help? After all this time?" Aisha scoffed, stepping back instinctively as if repulsed. "You think just showing up fixes things?" "It's a start," Jay replied half-heartedly. Tom felt the urge to intervene, to shield Aisha from more hurt, but he steadied himself and remained silent. This moment was hers. Deep inside, he hoped it would lead to healing instead of more wounds. "Why should I believe anything you say?" Aisha challenged, her voice thickening with emotion. "You left when I needed you the most. You abandoned us." "I know." Jay's fists clenched, desperation rising. "But I've changed. I've been working on myself. I'm ready to be better, to make up for my mistakes." The rain began to tap against the window, and the rumble of thunder grew louder, echoing the storm swirling between them. Tom stole a glance at Sarah, who seemed to resonate with the heaviness in the air, her eyes reflecting deep empathy. She understood pain, and perhaps that understanding would carry them through. "I can't just forget," Aisha said, her breath coming in ragged bursts. "Do you want me to invite you back into my life, act like nothing happened? How can I trust you again?" "That's fair," Jay replied solemnly, his gaze unwavering. "I don't expect you to forgive me today. I want a chance to show you. I'm here for the long haul." In that moment, the clouds shifted, and the light coming from the kitchen dimmed slightly. Tom felt the air grow colder, but he sensed something within Aisha thawing, an ember of hope that could ignite if nurtured just right. "What if we take this one step at a time?" Tom suggested, his voice breaking through the tension like sunlight. "We could slowly rebuild the trust. It's not about diving into the past but finding ways forward. Together. Aisha thought for a moment, the gears turning visibly in her mind. Slowly, she nodded, but uncertainty still clouded her expression. I'll need time. I'm not going to make any promises. That's fair, Jay murmured, relief glimmering faintly across his features. Just being here is enough. Let us start with some brownies, yeah? Aisha broke the tension slightly, a hint of a smile sparking on her lips as she looked at Dash, now sniffing curiously at Jay's shoes. Brownies? Jay repeated, bewildered yet intrigued. They're the healing kind, Aisha replied with a soft chuckle, brushing away the cobwebs of heaviness weighing on them. With a small laugh, Tom felt the moment shift once again, this time towards something lighter. Shall we all make a mess of it together? Yeah, let us do it, Jay replied, a tentative smile forming, and just like that, the atmosphere began to ease, the tumultuous emotions swirling back into a blend of laughter and shared understanding. As they moved into the kitchen, the storm outside gradually faded, the steady patter of rain slowly becoming a backdrop to their newfound beginnings, one which Tom intended to nurture fiercely. Sharing kitchen space together, amidst laughter and mess, was an act of weaving their stories together. Tom felt the remnants of the past shedding piece by piece, and he realized that while they were all a little broken, they were starting to weave something beautiful, a patchwork of resilience and connection. In the hours that passed, as chocolatey aromas filled the air and laughter mingled with shared glances of camaraderie, Tom understood this: healing doesn't happen overnight. It's a journey, a shared experience of vulnerability and strength born from the cracks of their lives, but each step forward was a step toward growth. Finally, as they gathered around the table, dripping with chocolate batter and smiles, Tom looked at Aisha. She met his gaze and, for the first time in what felt like ages, her eyes sparkled with a mix of hope and love. Together, they had faced their storms, together, they could build something bright out of the shadows. Here, in this moment of connection, Tom felt certain, they would rise together. As thoughts of the journey ahead flooded his mind, a fervor in him ignited. They could mend what had been broken if they stood together, hand in hand, heart to heart. Now more than ever, it felt like the beginning of something beautiful, and as the sun broke through the clouds outside, Tom couldn't help but think about the future, a future painted in shared colors, where laughter and love tangled seamlessly through every challenge. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive transformative stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait not even one more second to share. True fans understand the importance of backing this journey.